Hey, everybody, and welcome to Chain Breakers Talk Show. I'm your host and founder, Trista Overby, and today's episode will be a meet and greet, and I'll also be briefly sharing my personal story with you all. I consider myself to be a cycle breaker within my family, and this is something that I noticed since a child at around the age of 6 or 7. I found myself being different from my family in my actions, in my beliefs, in my desires. I just felt as if I was different all the way around. I remember at the age of 6 or 7, this internal dialogue, so to speak, or this voice, pretty much saying there has to be more than life than this. That's when I started noticing that something was off with my family. I couldn't put my finger on it at that moment, but I just knew that something wasn't normal or healthy, shall I say, within my family. I was raised in a single parent home. I'm the third of 4 children, and my father was absent. I have a separate father from my siblings, and as far as I know, I'm his only child. My father was not present in my life. However, I knew who he was. He lived in the same state and city where a lot of my family members live. So whenever we would visit my family, we would often run into him. It seemed as if all of these contacts were always initiated by my mother. I don't recall any times where my father actually initiated any type of contact with me. I do remember when Facebook pretty much came out that he would randomly comment on my post or send me these inconsistent type Facebook messages. And it came across as if they were basically like attention grabbers. Like there was no substance to anything he would say, but it seemed as if he was just merely trying to get my attention. And I remember him asking the question and saying that I don't call him, that I don't love him, that I can at least call and check on him to see if he's alive or dead. And as a child of an abandoned father, that rubbed me the wrong way because in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't even know you, first of all. So no, I'm not going to say I love you. I don't know you. And second of all, you haven't done anything for me, as far as providing anything for me, physically, emotionally, mentally, nothing. And you expect me to give to you in this way? At first, I was just totally confused as to how could someone's mind possibly think like that. You know what I mean? How could someone possibly come out their mouth with something so foolish, in my opinion? However, that was me projecting who I was on him, and I needed to see him for who he was. So for me, again, I didn't like that. I didn't like the place he was coming from, and I didn't like that mindset or those expectations. So I remember reaching out to him and allowing him to know that his expectations are all wrong, and that you can't attempt to repair any type of relationship or reconcile with anyone with unreasonable expectations and without first taking accountability for yourself. And he never replied to the message. I do recall one of my cousins reaching out to me, and they ran into him, and usually I guess they would always mention me. And this particular day, I was told that he said, well, I don't have a daughter. I don't have a daughter. So at this point, I don't have a relationship with my father. And for me, that was necessary for me to see just how selfish he was. I take it that me placing that boundary up and expressing myself was something that offended him. And I like to think that only toxic people will get offended by you stating what you need. And for him not being able to see his error in that situation, it just allowed me to know that that's not the type of father that I need in my life. And I look at things now and I see that my life was actually better without him, especially in the headspace that he's in. I don't need that in my life. It comes across to me as if he's trying to utilize me to fill a void within himself, possibly his own unresolved trauma, the lack of love, attention he didn't get as a child. But it comes across as if he's trying to utilize me to fill that need at a point later in life that he needs me. But keep in mind, earlier in life, as he was doing his own thing and had his own priorities, I was basically an afterthought. But I noticed that it seems that a lot of parents do that as well. They try to come back in your life when they realize that they didn't find what they were looking for out there. And for me, with where I am in my life, I value myself so much more. And I'm not in a place to where I'm tolerating one-sided relationships. I'm not in a place to where I'm tolerating mistreatment. And I don't care if it's family, parents, friends, whoever. I'm at a place to where I'm no longer tolerating one-sided relationships in my life. So I look at it like this: you bring something to the table, there has to be some type of give and take. But if that's not the case, you're not allowed to be in my life. And that's the place that I'm in at this moment. My relationship with my mother is what I initially thought was a healthy relationship in a sense. But looking back at it and understanding now, the relationship was very unhealthy. It was more of a toxic enmeshment that me and my mom had. Wherever you would see me, you would see her. Wherever you would see her, you would see me. It was just one of those situations. And now I understand that the relationship that we had was very codependent. My mother looked to me for her emotional needs, her financial needs, and I often found myself feeling as if I never had parents. I often felt that I was the parent in our relationship. I had to basically guide her and tell her things that she needed to do. And I felt as if I never had anyone to guide me to really, provide for me in the sense that I needed it. Now, yes, we always had food and a roof over our head, but I mean, emotionally, I'm being able to step in when I needed help. I didn't get that from my mother. My mother had a lot of her own unresolved trauma and internal issues that she was battling with as she was taking care of us. And I often felt as if my mom took a lot of her anger or resentment out towards me. I noticed that I was treated differently from other people within the family. And it was what I would say was pretty much clearly to see. I think a lot of what she resented in me were things that she was unable to do because of, her upbringing, the trauma that she faced. I just felt as if she resented me for a lot of those things. I often find myself being mistreated by her in a sense of being taken advantage of or used or exploited when it came to certain things as it relates to money. I was made to feel that I was obligated to do things and that I didn't have the right to say no or place up a boundary without being manipulated or guilt tripped because I didn't give her what she wanted. And eventually, especially as a child and teenager, I would give in to those demands because the psychological and emotional abuse was so strong. I like to think that people don't understand how damaging psychological and emotional abuse can be until they step out of their situation. And I say that because a lot of us are under the brainwashing and mind control of our toxic families. And we don't realize just how much in denial and brainwash we are until we step out of the dysfunction. And that's when we can clearly see how toxic the family system was and how brainwashed we were. I remember one time my car broke down and I needed a ride to work. And I remember asking my mom, hey, could I borrow your truck to go to work? And the first thing that came out of her mouth was, Well, you have this, you're a nurse, you have money, you have this, you have that, as if she didn't want to help me because in her eyes, I have too much. So I'm not going to help you because you're this, that, and the other. So I'm not going to help you. And I often notice a lot of her behavior towards me as being that, as if she would withdraw her love or attention or approval because I was too much in her eyes. And again, it came across sort of sadistic, as if I want you to suffer or feel bad because I'm hurting or I feel bad within. So I noticed a lot of her behaviors towards me stemming from that point. Now, I'm the type of person, I don't mind confronting issues. And if I feel a certain type of way, I'll address it. And on numerous occasions, I would find myself speaking to my mom about how she's treating me. And she would often either deflect from the whole conversation or just simply deny it. Or in other terms, gaslight me to make it seem as if I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. But I was 100% correct in everything that I was seeing. So there was a lot of differences within my family. There was a lot of favoritism. I often felt rejected by her. And also, I noticed a lot of favoritism, not only within my family, but I even see it carry down to another generation, into the next generation, that she shows favoritism as well. And a lot of it's intentionally. I like to say as well that there's a lot of immorality within my family. It just seems like there's no concept of right or wrong. It just seems that whatever my mother says goes, it just depends on what she needs in that moment as to what's considered right or what's considered wrong. And for me, that was something that I particularly just could not get with. I didn't find that to be, a beneficial or helpful environment for children. I also notice the lack of love and attention within my family as well. I can't speak for my other siblings, but I'm sure they have their own issues and trauma that they've experienced from their upbringing as well. But I do notice that, and it seemed as if because of the lack of attention or love within the family, that made a lot of people competitive, and a lot of people have low-key resentments and hatred and jealousy towards others, especially if you were the type of person that they felt were getting more attention. Even though my mom preferred to be with me most of the time, I believe that caused resentment in, some of my siblings, especially one in particular, that would constantly criticize me. I often felt that the resentment that they had towards me was actually birthed out of their own failures and regrets in their life. And I noticed that they would attack me, and I would be the only target within the family. But I do believe that that had a lot to do with the attention that they felt that my mom was giving me, when in actuality, it wasn't what it appeared. I often felt that my mom was using me in a lot of situations. So things aren't always what they appear, but I personally believe that this sibling in particular felt jealousy behind that. And it wasn't until around a little over 2 years ago that I pretty much saw their true selves evolved. I remember my mom called us to her house to talk about basically a text message that I sent when I decided to step back for my peace and my sanity from the family. And keep in mind, wherever my mom would be, I would usually be there. So I remember sending the text message saying that I was stepping back for myself, and you all won't see me around for the holidays, etc. And it's something that I wanted to do because, again, people always see me at every function. So I believe that, I wanted to do that. It was something that I wanted to do to just allow people to know, because I know that people would be wondering. So at the end of that text message, me speaking my truth, being who I am, because, again, I've been good to everybody within my family, I ended it by saying, God forbid if something were to happen before we saw each other again, I know I've been good to you all. that's my truth. And to this day, that's still my truth. However, there was a lot of people within my family that got upset about that saying, and they started saying, well, you don't say that about family. You don't wish death on family. You don't talk about death when it comes to family. Basically, what they were doing was reframing what I said to make it what they wanted it to be. They filtered what I said through their lenses. Their perception of what I said was done based on where they were internally. And the sibling that I often felt attacked by was one of the main persons that had a problem with it. I personally believe that their issue with it was a trigger because they regret how they treated people within the family. And I believe me speaking my truth, it bothered them because they can't say the same thing the way that I did. So I think that that caused a lot of issues within them. So this particular sibling text me that they didn't want this text message. And I was like, well, I just sent it, since you were family. I mean, I just wanted you to know, in case you didn't see me around. And they responded, well, I don't want that negative text message. And before I could really say anything else, they started to rapid text me, basically saying, I don't like your attitude. Don't call my son anymore. Like, it was like back to back to back, all of these text messages. And I said to myself, okay, there's something else going on behind this. I don't think a normal person, so to speak, would get upset about a text message. So I feel as if there's something deeper going on. And because they don't know how to regulate their emotions and deal with themselves, they lashed out on me. And this is pretty much what sparked the conversation, shall I say, that my mom wanted us to have at her house, to where my sibling cursed me out. The conversation pretty much started off with me initiating, and I pretty much just asked, well, I'm still confused on what you're upset about. You said you didn't want the text. I didn't send you another group text. So again, to me, it seems as if this response was inappropriate for the situation. So they said, well, I didn't want the text. And I said, okay, well, did I send you another text? No, but you sound like you were angry in the text. Well, did you ask me if I was angry, or are you assuming that I was angry? So basically, it seemed that a lot of what my sibling was dealing with in this moment was due to their distorted thoughts or distorted reality regarding the situation. But here I am, telling you, okay, I wasn't angry in the text. I was just responding to you, et cetera, et cetera. But for some reason, it just seems as if they still wanted to find or have an issue with me. So they started saying different stuff, like stuff that didn't even make sense. And I'm like, okay, something's off with this. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a reason that they're actually upset with me, because I didn't do anything to them. It seems as if they're trying to find a reason to be upset with me. So after maybe 10 different scenarios or reasons that they say they were upset, I remember just simply asking the question, are you jealous? And when I asked that question, all hell broke loose. I was called a prostitute, fat bees, whores, all kinds of names, you name it. And my mother looked at me in disgust and told me to leave after I was the one that got cursed out. So that showed me a lot about not only what my siblings' real issue was with me. Again, it was that resentment and jealousy. And it also showed me a lot about my mom as well, because the favoritism and the lack of morality is just heartbreaking to me. I was basically blamed for my siblings' emotions, for their reaction, and they were never held accountable. So that was a huge wake-up call for me. And I decided that I really needed to step back from this family, because again, at this point in my life, I was seeing so many people's true colors come out. And I like to think that when we are dealing with trauma, we can suppress and repress our emotions and the memories all we want, but it's going to eventually come out because the body keeps score. So you're not going to be able to lie or deny your issues for so long, because they're going to come up. And I believe that's pretty much just what I'm seeing going on within my family. And during that time, I pretty much also saw who was for me and who wasn't for me. It just started to reveal a lot of people's true colors, especially when I started to put my needs and feelings first. It's as if I'm not allowed to put myself first within my family. Not only was I looked at as a caretaker for my mom or her parent, but I was also looked at as a caretaker and parent for a lot of people within my family, a lot of my nieces and nephews. I often found myself protecting children that weren't mine from abuse. I often found myself providing for children that weren't mine because they were being neglected. So I often found myself being the parent and caregiver to everyone else, but I never had my needs met. Very rarely would anyone reach out to me, for exception of a few of my nieces and nephews. Very rarely would people reach out to me to ask, hey, well, what's going on, or what happened. Instead, they'll talk about it amongst each other and sort of form alliances from there on. But again, it just shows me a lot of what's going on within my family. And I do believe that there's a lot of secret competition, a lot of jealousy at the core, again, due to that lack of love within my family and lack of attention and affection. And I do believe that there are a few people within my family with those sadistic type tendencies, to where if you're doing better than them, they're jealous of you. They're hating on you, and they're in secret competition with you. And there's something that I noticed about a few people within my family, and those people in particular, I've stepped back from because of this. And those aren't people that I want in my life. I look at it like this. That's not the meaning of family. That's not the definition of family. And I'm at a place again where I don't desire to partake with people that are in competition with me, people that don't have my well-being at heart. Like I have no interest and desire to be in relationship or connection with such people, especially since I've decided to walk away and put my needs and feelings first from some family members, because there are still people that I keep in contact with. I noticed that there's a lot of blaming and scapegoating going on. Even after the incident with my sibling and my mother that day, immediately I noticed they went into a smear campaign mode. They went into playing the victim and trying to make me out to be the bad guy in the situation. And it's like they're forming this alliance so the truth doesn't come out, or they don't get exposed for who they are. And again, it's hurtful. It's hurtful when it's your family, and especially your mother, a mother that you've done so much for. And to see how people are willing to try to destroy you for their own selfish gain is heartbreaking to me. But the blessing, in my opinion, is that I see it for what it is. I think a lot of us, we're operating in denial about who our family and our parents are. And I think you cannot become all that you are called to be. You cannot do all that you are called to do if you're operating in dysfunction, if you're operating in denial. We have to face reality. It's hard because, who wants to see their parents as they are? Who wants to believe that their parents are jealous of them? Who wants to believe this stuff? Like, you don't want to believe that my parents don't want me to advance in life. But for some people, this is reality, and you have to face reality. And that's the place that I'm at in my life now. I like truth, and I'd rather see something than live a lie and miss out on my life because I failed to view something as it should be. With that being said, I had to distance myself from my mother, from that particular sibling, and from a few more people in my family, because I know and see the connection that they have with the situation that's going on. And I like to think that people's actions pretty much speak louder than their words. So I watch what people do and how they move. in order to see who I need to deal with and who I don't need to deal with. So overall, as it pertains to my father, I don't have a relationship with him. And as it pertains to my mother, I'm currently distancing myself from her because of her treatment towards me and her failure to take responsibility for her actions as well. I feel like a lot of what she does is intentional. She's well aware of what she's doing, and it doesn't appear that she has any desire to change that behavior. So above all, I have to do what I have to do for my sanity and my health. And just some encouragement for someone out there. If you're in this place and you find yourself being a victim of emotional and psychological abuse by the hands of your parents and being mistreated purposely and intentionally, you have to focus on self. I know a lot of times raised in these type families, these dysfunctional or toxic type family systems, the parents' needs are what matters. You know, we're taught as children that our needs, our feelings, and happiness don't matter. So we may often find ourselves pleasing our parents and trying to win their approval and love, when in actuality, they can't give what they don't have. They don't have love to give to you. They're operating pretty much in survival mode. So when people are operating in survival mode, it's kind of like every man for himself. You'll be surprised at the things that people will do in order to win. And that's just what I have to look at it as. You know, it's, to me, insidious, and I think that it's an evil situation as well. And I do believe that a lot of these families can be demonic at its core, but I would encourage you to put yourself first. I remember this therapist telling me, it's either you stay in this family and you basically die. You know, it may not be a physical death, but emotionally, mentally, purposefully, you die, or you step out and just have people upset about that. Either way, somebody's going to be mad. You see what I'm saying? It's either you stay in the family, be criticized, conform, be scapegoated, etc., because these families have to have someone to blame for their issues. They can't take responsibility. Or you walk away and people just get upset, but you find your healing, you find your freedom, you find your peace. So the choice is yours. However, the latter choice is always going to be better. So just that encouragement, if you may need it, choose you. Choose you. Your feelings, your wants, your desires, your happiness matter. And it's time that you choose you. We've been living a lie. And it's time that we choose ourselves, because we are worthy of the love and attention that we so freely give to others. So with that being said, I'm at a current place within my life to where I'm focusing on Trista. I would say that my grieving process took about a year and a half. I remember, oh, y'all, grieving can be so messy. I remember feeling a range of different emotions, and I remember coming over that hump last year around summertime. It seems as if there was a new awakening, y'all. I'm telling you, like, I was a different person. Like, all of that stuff just lifted. I was able to grieve the parents that I never had. I was able to grieve the siblings that I never had, and the family that I never had. Again, there are people within my family that I keep in contact with. A lot of my nieces and nephews, I have good relationships with. And out of courtesy, I did speak with them to allow them to know that I was going to be sharing my truth, because I know how ugly things can get once someone speaks out and share their truth. Because in these families, you don't speak, you don't tell, you don't talk about family. That's just the toxic rules and lies we were forced to believe growing up in these families. But I like to call myself a cycle breaker, and I'm going to speak my truth. I'm no longer going to be silent, because silence is actually a trauma response. Then you have to ask yourself, who are you protecting? Who are you protecting? Are you protecting the abuser, or are you protecting yourself? So we have to ask ourselves that in these situations. But I'm at a place in my life to where I'm seeking more freedom, and what better way to be free than to share my story. And again, this is a brief synopsis of my story, because I didn't want to be too long, and maybe one day, I will go further into detail. But at this point in my life, simply just rediscovering Trista, I'm focusing on the goals and the talents that I have, and my desire is to see others set free. My desire is to encourage other people to break the cycle within their family lineage. This stuff does not have to continue. You can come out, you can heal, and you can start a new lineage within your family line. There's this quote that I came across, and it's by an unknown author. It pretty much says, as I heal, I transform my lineage and my legacy. And that speaks volumes to me. It speaks volumes to me. So at this point, I'm just working on me. I'm healing and becoming the best person that I can be, so that I can put the right foot forward towards the things that God has called me to do. So with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for tuning into Chain Breakers Talk Show. And be sure that you catch us every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Until next time. mindset.